Welcome to Off the Rails, brought to you by the Model Railway YouTube community group, MRYCG, connecting the Model Railway community together. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course YouTube. Just search for MRYCG. Welcome to the fifth instalment of our podcast, Off the Rails with MRYCG. Autumn is now upon us, and at MRYCG we have lots of ideas for exciting things in the pipeline to come in the near future. We would like to welcome members that have joined our new sister group, which you will hear details about during our news section later on in this show. This month we have a guest newsreader. Find out who it is very soon. So this month we have interviews with 3 modelers, our live stream listings, and of course the competition details of competitions recently launched across the Model Railway community. So let's get coupled up, take your seats, and get ready for a journey through episode 5. Hello and welcome to this latest interview with a modeler from the community. Today we are joined by James Cullen, aka James D Emu from YouTube. Hello James.
Hello.
Okay, so we've got a few questions for you to answer, James. Hopefully we can get a little bit of an insight into your modelling from the past, present and maybe into the future. So straight away we're going to go in the question, why the name James D Emu?
Long answer short, it's a society I'm a member of. When I joined DEMU about 12 years ago now, there was obviously a large membership and it was well established, but it didn't have much of a YouTube presence, and there was a YouTube channel which is still there, actually, selfless plug, but there wasn't much on it, this sort of thing. And I was attending a lot of local shows with the society, and people would come over and ask you questions about, how have you built that, or how would I go about doing sort of things like track wiring or scratch building, and you'd find yourself answering the same question over and over again. So my answer was, well, what I'll do is I'll make a video which explains how I've done that or the other. And when people ask me the question again, I'd say, well, this is how I've done it. If you can't remember that, nice to meet you, I'm James from the society DEMU, which was on the banners all around me. So I did it just so people could search and find me quickly to get those answers again as reference, and I've just never bothered to change it. That's the truth.
So yourself, you obviously you mentioned the DEMU as a society, but as yourself, are you an independent modeler in the community separately from the society that you're in? Yes,
mainly because the society's sort of unwritten rule is 1955 through to present day, and I do model things outside of that period. That said, of course, there's always the discussion over whether 1923 is the start of modern traction and this sort of thing, but we won't bore people listening with that today. But yeah, so I like to do a bit of all sorts and everything. It's whatever takes your fancy at the time, irrespective of scale, gauge, region, country.
Are you building any layouts at the moment?
I am. I'm doing the big project in miniature, if that makes sense.
And miniature as in N-gauge by any chance?
Yes, very much N-gauge.
That is very much miniature. For those of you who are listening for the first time, there are various gauges in the hobby. I myself model in 00 gauge, and N-gauge is like half the size, or maybe a little bit.
Literally half the size,
yes. Of 00. So it gives you an idea of the sizes of these models that people are modelling in.
I'll come clean. I was going to do it in T gauge, but I've sold up on that, and it's quite difficult to get all the models I wanted in that scale, so I went up to the big stuff being N.
So you say N gauge stuff being the bigger stuff. T gauge is even smaller.
T gauge is 1/450th scale, which is the smallest commercially available gauge currently on the planet that actually works, and you can DCC fit that if you're interested. I know someone that has.
That would be interesting.
It is very impressive when you see how it's done. Not that I've done that at all. I'm far too ham-fisted with a soldering iron, if I'm honest. But no, it's one of those things that it's worth looking up. Anyone that's listening, if you've not yet encountered T-Gauge, they do have a website. They are an independent manufacturer sort of set up, and it's fascinating to watch. And a lot of it's actually kit built as well, which is challenging.
Now, obviously you say you're building a layout at the moment. It's in N-Gauge. Mm-hmm. Have you built many other layouts in the past?
Dozens. Literally dozens. I've lost count, if I'm honest. No, I have built dozens of layouts over the years, from everything from T-Gauge all the way up to Gauge 3, I think was the big one I attempted, and that failed miserably. But no, this, like I said, it's down to what you're doing at the time. For example, I've always been fascinated by micro layouts. I stumbled across Carl Arndt's site 20 years ago or more, which is focused on constructing micro layouts of various designs within very limited spaces and making them operational, not just having a little diorama. And so the challenge to me was, okay, I can't model, for example, the entirety of North Derbyshire to do the Peak District, but what I can do is do a box file, which is a tail chaser, pick on 3 or 4 elements of it and encompass that into a very small N-Gauge on a piece of A4. So I did one of those. And then you can do like G-scale as a pizza layout, which would be like a 3-foot diameter, which you think, well, 3-foot diameter is quite a big board, but when it's G-scale, it's actually not a very big board at all. And so it's that challenge of how to fit everything in and represent the rest of the world without it actually being there. So lots of scenic breaks and forced perspective and that sort of thing.
Now, I am aware you did a layout, am I right, in a suitcase?
I've done in box files, in a ratchet spanner tin, did one in a violin case, that was T-Gauge. I can't remember actually doing a suitcase, but I've done many other sort of cases, boxes, little containers, a bit of all sorts really. The thing is, I suppose for anybody, a lot of people will start off in the hobby and go, I want to build a layout, but I don't have the room. Well, part of what I do with the micro layout side of things and with DEMU is to demonstrate actually you do have the room, but you just have to have the ability to compromise. For example, I rather foolhardily once attempted to put Birmingham New Street into a box file, which is just over A4 sized. I got the platforms down, I got the track in, and I worked out how to make the trains actually move, but the problem was I couldn't get enough of an HST in there to make it look right without having to have a second box, and I didn't want to cheat and do that, so it didn't get much further as a project. But like I say, you can actually fit a layout into most things. The smallest I've seen, I would call a layout, is actually on top of a bean tin. So you've got a can of baked beans in the cupboard, don't throw it away, turn it over, and you can use that as the outer rail and run a layout on it.
That's tiny then.
It's not exciting to operate, but it's fun to watch.
What would you say is your favourite era to model?
Ooh, that's a brilliant question. It really is. I'm going to go what I'm doing at the moment, which is the period around sort of 1995, 1996. The reason for that would be you've got the largest variety of locomotive classes and liveries and freight and passenger operations available. Loco classes from the 80s that were withdrawn were still around in one form or another, and you've then got the end of nationalisation into the start of the privatisation happening in 97. So you can just start to squeeze in what we call like the modern image sort of thing. So that's quite a good one, I think.
What do you love doing most though about an actual layout build?
Probably the designing, actually. I'm one of those modelers who I'm quite happy with a pencil and paper sort of in the corner in the chair while the television's playing to itself, and just sort of planning ideas. A sort of a side hobby within the hobby, if you will, is I like to sit down with a book, lots of photo books of various railways from all around the United Kingdom, and you sort of flick through and you'll find a picture of maybe a Cornish branch line is rather evocative, or a bit of central Scotland or something like that. And you look and you think, so actually, that photograph would make a lovely model. So how do I operate it? So if you have a look, you go, I've got a bridge and there's a station. Okay, so the bridge would be the scenic break. And then that comes to the station. Or is the station terminus or through, and this sort of thing? And is it a freight line only now? And you end up planning an entire layout and try and make it fit within a realistic space. And then decide if it's worth actually building it. And I've got dozens and dozens of drawings at home for track plans that I know will never be built, but it was good fun imagining what could be done, maybe one day.
Now, have you actually considered building an exhibition layout? You said you've built quite a lot already in the past. Have any of those been exhibition layouts?
Yes, I have done those, mainly for other people. They've done local shows. One went to Worley, that was nice. I've done layouts for people at home and this sort of thing. Some have been taken out. I've taken on former exhibition layouts and reinvigorated them, updated them, and then gone back out with other people. So it's nice when you get the opportunity to build something that perhaps you wouldn't have wanted to do yourself. You hadn't thought about it, like a depot layout for a place you hadn't really even looked into, or some other sort of prototype that wouldn't normally appeal. And you get to have that bit of time and research, and you learn something new and develop it, and then it goes off, and obviously the owners then get to enjoy it themselves. And it's nice when you go to a show and you see something that you've done and other people are enjoying that, and it's just nice to think, well, yeah, but it must be like a builder walking past a house and going, I built that one, It's, a little bit of pride is nice.
Now, you mentioned that you're currently working on a new project, a new layout. Tell us a little bit about that if you can.
Yeah, the Big Little project. There's a family connection to Tollerton Depot in the East Midlands. It's Sandiacre, if anybody's want to look on the map and find out where it is. It used to be the largest diesel depot in Europe. I've always wanted to do it, and having scaled it up, in 4mm it would be just over 4 foot wide, which obviously is quite restrictive when you come down to available space and this sort of thing. So I've decided to do it in 2mm. So my challenge to myself is to construct the rear portion of the depot, which is the bit that everybody photographs normally, and try and do it as an exhibition layout. So lots of Loco movement and bits knocking around, all different liveries and types and this sort of thing, and just get the chance to build something that I've always liked, which normally you'd be mental to attempt, I suppose.
You've mentioned that you've done layouts for other people and they've been onto exhibitions, but what would you say was your personal proudest moment or achievement within the hobby so far?
Again, a very good question. Without wanting to sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet and doing anything that's sort of so egotistical or arrogant, probably inspiring others. Again, it's a perk, if you will, of being in DEMU society. We do a lot of exhibitions all over the country, and you deal with people of all ages and abilities, and it's difficult to describe. You have a moment where you're sitting there and you're busy sort of generally attacking a rather expensive model with a razor saw, and the general reaction from the public is usually that of horror and shock, and why are you taking this expensive model I'd love to buy and killing it, sort of thing. And then you get children come over who don't have that same mindset. They're more interested in why are you cutting it up. So you sort of explain, well, I want to build one of these, and unfortunately I can't buy that, so I'm making my own by using this, which is what they did in real life, or it's close enough, this sort of thing. And you would have a young person stand there and say, oh, I'd love to have my own model railway, but I don't have the room, I don't have the money, I don't have whatever it might be. And you can spend a few moments with them and explain simple techniques like using cereal box card, for example, as a building material, and other freebies you find around the home. Tin foil is actually a brilliant building material, which I've used in the past to represent leather and aluminium sheeting and all sorts of weird and wonderful things about how you paint it and glue it. And you can set somebody off on a path into a hobby they can enjoy for life with a simple bit of information, like if you can cut a piece of card and glue it like this, you can laminate it and make it thicker, and then it's stronger and it stands by itself. And if you can do that, you can cut it out in the middle and make relief for windows and so forth. And all of a sudden you see the light bulb moment, and they sort of look to mum and dad and go, we've got a cereal box at home, and they're away. And then you get the look of disdain from mum and dad, knowing that you've just set this child off on this journey of discovery and and what they're doing, and they're not going to have to pay for this. But you do explain that you can do it cheaply, folks. You can build a relatively decent looking layout for less than the price of a night out in the pub, which in the current climate you can't do that anyway, really, not safely. So you might as well stay at home and build a train set. Much more fun.
Of all the Locos and rolling stock that you currently own, what would you say is your personal favourite?
Personal favourite? See, that's a tricky one, because there's one or two for various reasons. At home, I do have a model which will never run and work because it's made entirely out of ceramic, and it's how do I describe this? It's a Great Central D11 that was hand built from this like clay porcelain, and it has my name in the place of the actual nameplate because it was made for me when I was born. So it's a one of one, and it's something I've always had. And even though it is roughly gauge 1 and is a little bit crude in places because it's made from pot, that's probably it's probably the favourite just because of what it is as that attachment. I know it's not the latest DCC sound and like Bachman offering or any of that sort of stuff, but it's the one that sits in the cabinet in the front room that I get to enjoy every day by looking at it, as opposed to the one that sits on a layout and occasionally you play with. So that's probably the favourite model.
What about rolling stock?
Ooh, that's a whole different question. On a technicality, it's something I built, which is going to sound horribly egotistical. It is what I made and it's the best one I've got. I don't have that many wagons and coaches and bits because I've culled the collection a fair bit to focus on other things like classic cars and wives. So back to the toting connection, I always wanted to do a model of the engine carriers. I've always had this fascination with the one-off and the unusual items of stock that existed on the railways. And so I decided to do what they did on the real railway and convert a Class 37 into a well wagon. So I took and at that point unneeded Sound 37 and donated all the bits that Batman got wrong to a friend for a scrap diorama, and converted this thing into what is a well wagon. So I'm going to claim that one as my personal favourite just because it's the one I've actually kept after everything else I've done.
What Loco or rolling stock would you like to see produced for the first time that hasn't yet?
Oh, sit down everybody, this is a very long list. Complete personal bias, of course. Everything Great Central, which I know is a vast list of many, many things, which far too many to mention, but for those listening who model the London North Eastern Railway or sort of steam railways up to the 1950s in general, the LNER, the majority of its stock was GC, and yet from the model manufacturers, as far as rate to run is concerned, there is virtually nothing. Bank would have had a few offerings recently, but things like a Robinson A5 or a Jersey Lily would be beyond the wildest imagination of many. Barnum coaches, that sort of thing, would be just something nice to see, which I've never ever been ready to run.
Okay, and now for the final question before we hit the quick fire round.
Hurrah.
How useful do you find online social media and forums are towards providing modelling information for the current generations?
The internet is a wonderful tool. The problem you have with things like social media as opposed to sort of dedicated forums is you go onto the likes of Facebook as an example, and you ask a question and you will say, what would the sleeper spacing be, please, for double O gauge track? And immediately an argument breaks out between 300 people you've never met before. And what you tend to find happens is 299 of them are screaming the wrong answer and are convincing each other that they're right, and the one who's got it right gets shouted down and you miss it. So you end up doing it wrong, but it's wrong by the will of the people. It's a strange one. I suppose the best way of using social media in that respect would be if you can use it for networking more than opinion polls. So if you know someone who is specialist in brass kit building, for example, then I would refer to them exclusively and would not go generally to the floor. There are specialised sites and pages, like MRYCG to be fair, where there are members within the group who you could call upon for certain information. Laura McWilliams is a name that springs to mind, another DEMU member, selfless plug again for the society, who is very well read on a multitude of things, and on occasion I have messaged Laura and spoke for hours on end, quite literally. If you watch her live videos you'll know why, because it's never a short answer but it's always right, and you can get more information you ever thought you needed, but at least then you know when you go forward you're doing it right. And so that's the way I prefer to sort of approach the social media side of things, if that's answered the question.
Well, some great answers there, giving us a little insight into your past, present, and maybe into the future there, James. Thank you very much.
Thank you for asking.
But now it's time for the quick fire round. We're going to get a little insight into the modeller to see what you get up to, maybe, while you're modelling.
Ooh, this could be fun. This could be dangerous.
This could be dangerous. So, going to go straight in with question 1. What is your favourite beverage?
Cup of tea. I know it's really dull and people probably say exciting things like champagne or Chardonnay. No, good old-fashioned mug of tea.
Question 2. What is your favourite snack?
Oh, favourite snack. It's ginger biscuits with the cup of tea. It's just something nice. You just dunk your biscuit, drip tea all over the drawings you've just done, and carry on model making.
And the final question. What is your favourite all-time TV show?
Oh, good grief. Favourite all-time
TV show.
I know whatever I answer, I'm going to regret it later and go, oh, no, I should have said that. I'd love to give some very clever answer, which is some sort of, National Geographic style, history program or something fancy like that, but it's actually going to be either the Professionals or the Sweeney, and I can't really toss up between the two, if I'm honest. I know it's cheap kind of cop show 70s drama television, but there's something nice about watching proper cars be driven properly through the streets of London while onlookers sort of wonder why they're driving like maniacs, and having a plunge up in the middle of the street. It's just good fun.
Well, thank you very much, James, for the answers to the quickfire questions and also the main questions that were asked prior. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us for this interview. Please tell us, where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook and YouTube, as you say, if you just search for the DEMU Society, or through MRYCG and various other model railway groups and pages. I'm all over the place, really. It's all over the shop.
Thank you very much, James. Yes, so JamesDEMU on YouTube. That's his channel. Go check him out, and also check out the society, the DEMU, which stands for
Diesel Electric Modelers United.
There we go. Thank you again for listening.
Thank
Take care, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.
Are you a modeller or are interested in the British diesel and electric era? Then why not check out DEMU, which stands for Diesel and Electric Modelers United. This independent society was formed in 1984, catering for all modellers of the railways of mainland Britain in the diesel and electric era, regardless of scale, gauge, affiliations or modelling abilities. As a member, you will be able to access subjects of interest not normally seen in the modelling press and some fantastic member forums. You will find details on groups that hold meetings throughout Britain, and you'll get reduced rates to the annual showcase exhibition where the very, very best of diesel and electric modelling may be seen. Check out the DEMU website for more information and make sure you join today to get the most up-to-date information on events and exhibitions, but most of all, be part of a friendly group of people who love to share information and pass on expert advice. So what are you waiting for? Head over to demu.org.uk and get in touch.
Hi, welcome to MRYCG. You are listening to the #1 show on this model train network. This is Craig from Newgate Junction, aka Mr. Grim. Take care all, be safe and happy modelling.
Hello and welcome to this latest interview here with the Off the Rails podcast by MRYCG. Today we've got Owen of Owen's Model Railways. Good afternoon, Owen. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Jason. How are you?
I am fine also. Thank you for taking the time to do this interview for the podcast. We look forward to hearing your answers to the questions that we set amongst all the modellers that we are interviewing.
Thank you, yeah, it's great to be on.
Okay, so we're going to get straight on with the questions, and the first one we're going to say is, how long has Yateford Parkway been under construction?
Yateford Parkway is actually quite new. It's only been under construction for about 3 or 4 months now, but it's not a massive layout, so the scenic section has been coming along quite quickly, with the platform areas and the station area coming along very quickly indeed.
Now, you said this one has only been going for a few months now. Have you had any previous layouts before this one then?
I haven't had anything truly that you call a layout. I've had a couple of sort of track on boards type of thing, but this is my first full-on scenic layout.
Now, many people might be listening to this already and maybe noticing one thing, and that is you're only a young chap early into the hobby. How are you finding the hobby yourself so far, as in how you can progress with information and obviously buying stuff like that? Have you got any preferences or anything that you found to be what you like the most?
Yes, I am quite young, and obviously coming into the hobby, came into it fairly strongly a few years ago, but I've always been background. When buying stuff, generally I sort of ask around with a few people I know, and also generally try and hunt for the best price. So I'm generally not sort of going for one retailer. I tend to go to whoever's got the better price or can get it to me soonest.
Now, the layout you've got at the moment, Yateford Parkway, is that based on any particular era?
It's based on the modern image in Somerset. The layout itself is completely fictional. It's based in sort of west modern Somerset in a branch line.
And what have you enjoyed the most so far building that current layout?
The thing I've enjoyed the most is probably just the overall seeing it come together, seeing it go from nothing to where I am now, which is with an almost fully functional track and a really nice sort of scenic section coming along. So mainly it's just been the progression that I've enjoyed the most.
So you've not been in the hobby too long, but you say you come into it quite strongly. What inspired you to actually get involved into model railways?
I think what really inspired me was probably just the sort of the family aspect to begin with the first couple of train sets, maybe quite a few years ago. And it's always been something I've sort of had an interest in, but never fully progressed in. But in the past 3 to 4 years is where I've really come in quite strongly, because about 2.5, 3 years ago, I started volunteering at the West Somerset Railway in the Gauge Museum, where we have a communal model railway. And I think that's really what sort of pushed me to really continue quite strongly. So I think if it weren't for joining the West Somerset Railway, it'd still be more on the back burner.
So what would you say was your first train set or train that you got yourself?
I think one of the first ones that I would have owned would be the Hornby Caledonian Bell or something along with that. That was probably one of the first one that was given to me, but I can still very distinctly remember buying my first train set. So this was out of the savings that had been saved up for a few years. I bought the Hornby Flying Scotsman from a local toy shop. So I went to the bank and withdrew £100 and went and bought it from my local toy shop.
So what would you say is your favourite Loco that you own?
The favourite one that I own would have to be very closely tied between the HST in GWR green and my Class 150 in First Great Western blue. It is incredibly close between them. But if I really had to choose, I probably would go with the HST.
And how about rolling stock?
The rolling stock. Generally with rolling stock, because I use mainly units, so it'd have to be the Mark III because that's the only rolling stock I have. But, yeah.
Now, you mentioned GWR, First Great Western. Now, is that what you primarily focus your layout on, or do you use any of the Rule 1 applies?
Primarily, yes, it is First Great Western and GWR, but there is going to be a little aspect of Rule 1. because I do have an Arriva Trains Wales Class 121, and although that worked in Cardiff, when I saw it at Hatton's, I thought, that's a lovely little unit, I'm going to pick that up.
What would you say has been your proudest moment or achievement within the hobby so far then?
I think my proudest moment would probably be when electrically at Yakeford Parkway everything worked. So just having the layout and generally not having problems and just being able to run trains, have the signals working and not having trains cutting out very often, and just being able to get it working has been the proudest moment, definitely.
And some would say if it's working perfectly first time, then it must be an excellent build, because many modelers out there always come across problems regardless. But you've won the game there.
Yeah, I have got a couple of minor things that need to be tweaked, but generally 99% of the time it works, which is a really proud thing for me.
Now, because you've only been in the hobby a short period of time, a few years, have you ever actually considered building an exhibition layout?
I have considered an exhibition layout, but unfortunately with the constraints of space and time that I've got, that's not something I can do now. But in the future, so when I've got my own house and hopefully more time, then I would like to have a small exhibition layout that I can take around to local exhibitions, because it's about sharing what you can do, isn't it, in the hobby?
And going on from that, actually, how do you find social media and forums are towards information for your modelling and your building?
Oh, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I mean, obviously, I'm at an age where that's all I've ever known, so I wouldn't be able to sort of go back to before that. But I do think it's absolutely brilliant. On Facebook, there's the brilliant MRYCG community. On Instagram, there's a group of people that I'm involved with. And on Twitter, there's a really strong community there. But they all tie together, and it's a great way to pick up new skills, learn more about the things you already have, and find out about new products. Because there are quite a few companies that I think are somewhat word of mouth. So I don't think without social media, I wouldn't have had some of the input that I've had for the layout. And it's a great way to build your confidence. So if you're showing what you're doing, and people are coming back saying, wow, that looks great. And, that looks great, but here's where you could tweak that to make it even better. That's just that community aspect that I think we really have with social media. And I think it's brilliant.
Now, with being of a younger generation, what are your thoughts on actually getting the younger generation, like yourself, involved in the hobby?
Oh, of course I'm going to promote it, but of course I'm very biased with that. But I know at the West Somerset Railway, only a few months after I joined, a waiting list really started building, because I think just recently the hobby really has grown in popularity, because I've seen more and more young people coming into it, and absolutely it's a brilliant thing, because I can't name another hobby where you've got such a wide variety of skills being used in such a short space of time. Of course, there's building the layout, you've got sort of carpentry, woodwork skills, you've got the electrical skills. There's so much built into the hobby that I think young people like myself can really learn from and take it actually into their education.
Yeah, that's something that's been pointed out quite a lot, especially recently during the showstopper period, that a lot of modellers are feeling that this itself, the model railway plethora of modellers and skills that are out there, should be actually brought into the school curriculum.
I know when I was first at my secondary school, there was very nearly a modelling club. Unfortunately, there are a couple of things that stopped it that were beyond my control, so time and money, but there was very nearly a club. And I think if anybody has the opportunity to do something like that, then I think it really should be taken, because I think it can provide such a massive benefit that obviously it should be taken up.
Yes, indeed. And I know that there are personal people to myself who have mentioned that about clubs at schools, either maybe a lesson of some sort or even an after-school club. It's an essential part of learning new skills crafting. It's part of art. So it's something good to get the younger generation involved in, just like yourself.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Well, there we go. That's the main questions all gone through. But what I would like to just ask, what's your favourite first Great Western livery?
I think the favourite first Great Western livery would just have to be the plain blue. That's definitely my favourite. A very simple, straight to the point livery, but it's not a plain white, which is what we actually tend to be seeing because there's a lot of changeover. But definitely the plain blue is my favourite first Great Western livery.
Absolutely fantastic. Lovely. Some lovely answers there for the questions. Before we do go, obviously we've got the quick fire round to go through. 3 non-model railway related questions to get a little bit of behind the modeller and see what kind of things he likes to get up to and what he likes to have as maybe a snack or so. But before we do, just let the listeners know, where can they find Owen's Model Railways?
You can find me on YouTube under Owen's Model Railways. You can find me on Instagram at Owens_model_railways and on Twitter at Owen Model.
Fantastic. Great places. Make sure you get involved with Owen, find him on his social media and click follow, subscribe wherever you wish. So now we take Owen into the quick fire round with 3 questions, all non-model railway related, and all we need for these questions are one-word answers. So, question 1. What is your favourite beverage?
Tetley tea.
Question 2. What is your favourite snack?
Probably popcorn.
And the final question, question 3. What is your favourite all-time TV show?
The League of Gentlemen.
Thank you very much for those answers to the quickfire round questions. And again, thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview, Owen.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been great to be on.
Again, finally, just for the listeners, tell us again where we can find Owen's Model Railways.
On YouTube, you can find me at Owen's Model Railways. On Instagram at Owens_model_railways. And on Twitter at Owen Model.
Fantastic stuff there. Thank you very much again, Owen, for taking the time to do this interview. We look forward to following your progress in your modelling career. So thank you very much, Owen. Take care of yourself, stay safe, stay well, and remember, everybody, keep on modelling. Bye for now.
Goodbye.
Hello, I'm Brian from Finlayson Central, and here is your monthly MRYCG briefing for September 2020. Rails of Sheffield made a statement on the 28th of August that unfortunately, after 35 years of trading with Hornby with immediate effect, they will be unable to fulfil any orders for forthcoming releases or out of stock Hornby products. John Barber, Managing Director, said, "We would like to make it clear that this only affects Hornby products that are on pre-order or out of stock. All our other extensive range of brands are unaffected. We are continuing to contact customers personally who have pre-existing orders for Hornby products. If you are yet to hear from us, please bear with us and we will be in touch as soon as possible." A model rail enthusiast's lovingly preserved collection of locomotives has raised £132,000 at auction for a much-loved Wales heritage line. Kenneth Mike Abbott from Leicester left in his will the sale proceeds from his lifetime collection to the Welsh Pool and Langfair Light Railway. More than 70 items were sold at auction on August the 18th. Bristol Temple Meads celebrating turning 180 years old with a special birthday event on the 1st of September. The social distancing celebrations include historic music played across platforms every hour, a historic talk inside the passenger shed, an exhibition in the underpass, and a special Isambard Kingdom Brunel themed top hat style cake. MRYCG have launched a new group on Facebook called MRYCG Juniors. This group is specifically for young people aged 13 to 18 who have an interest in model railways. The group leader appointed is Jack Carter, who owns the Benton Road layout and has a keen interest in making this a safe, fun community to be part of. Please search MRYCG Juniors on Facebook. The group is heavily monitored by admins of the main MRYCG group to make sure that the young people are safe and can enjoy the hobby. Parents are welcome to join the group too and join in with the interactions. We thank Jack for having the idea, bringing the hobby to younger audience, and wish him good luck with group activities.
Hello and welcome to this latest interview here with Off the Rails podcast with MRYCG. Today we got Geoff Readman of Jumble Lane. Good afternoon, Geoff.
Good afternoon.
It's great to have you here, and we've got the usual questions to throw at you. And not forgetting, we're going to be finishing off with the non-model railway related quickfire questions at the end, just to get that little bit of an extra insight behind the modeler. So the first question for you, Geoff, is how long has Jumble Lane itself, current layout, been under construction?
I think around about 2 years.
And is that the actual layout itself, or has it changed over the time?
Well, it's changing all the time, isn't it? All layouts change. They just evolve all the time. It's probably about 2 years, and it's just grown and grown and then changed. And the ideas keep changing as you go along from what I very first thought I was going to do with the layout.
Has the layout developed as you wanted it? You say it's changing all the time, but are you still primarily keeping to how you actually wanted it to be?
There was only certain criteria I wanted with that layout, and that was a very small section of it. I had to just put in a snapshot of an area where it got the name Jumble Lane in Barnsley in South Yorkshire. There was 2 stations when I was born. There was 2 stations there separated by a bus station. The one doesn't exist now, and the bus station is basically an integral part of the railway station, and it has changed a lot over the years. But I've based my layout, that section of the layout, on how it was at the time when I was born, back in 1958. So it's sort of, how shall I put it, it's well out of scale, because it's only got about 2'6" from the edge of the layout to the wall, and I'm trying to put in too much, and the bus station in between is probably a quarter of the width of it really is, and I can't put everything into it what I want. So I'm building around it, and it's just going from bits and pieces at the moment.
So what era would you say that's actually based on then? You mentioned 1958. What era on
I've
the
got no
network?
particular era on my layout. It's just anything and everything, whatever takes my fancy. I've got old steam trains and I've got new modern locos.
So rule 1 certainly applies.
Oh yeah.
It's your layout.
Modeller's licence.
Yeah, modeller's licence indeed. Now, you've been building that layout for, let's say, just around 2 years, and you mentioned that it's based on Barnsley area. So it is based on a real place then, not a fictional
Only
location.
that it takes in a room. It's a bedroom, and the part that's the real life part is only about 3 foot of section. So you've got another sort of 9 foot, in length, and it goes all the way around the room. So you've got quite a bit of fictional track.
Now you've got a particular part of it which is fictional, and that's got a particular name, hasn't it?
Godfrey Junction.
And that's the reason why it's called that?
Well, my dad's called Godfrey, and he's housebound, and he will never get to see it in life. So what happens is he likes to get included one way or another, and that is either watching the videos that I make so he can see what it is, or he does models for me. So he's been building Metcalf kits, and he built the station with the mail section and everything else, and we put that on there. So I've called that Godfrey Junction, where it's got a major junction, because my layout has got 2 loops basically, and each loop has got 2 running rails. So you've got 4 rails deep on the layout, 2 of the inner loop, 2 of the outer, and they cross a bridge, etc. And they go around. One's a higher section and one's a lower section at some point. So This has got parts of that on where it's my dad, and then at the one end I've got an area where it's the Heritage Railway area, and I'm calling that Rose Junction because my mum's June Rose, and I just got the involvement of my mum there as well.
Have you built any previous layouts before this one?
I built one previous layout which got blew up by the Star Wars and what have you, and that was given away on YouTube when I got to, I think it was 300 subscribers. So that went to Scotland. That was called the lounge layout, and then this one became the bedroom layout.
So of the current build, Jumble Lane and Godfrey Junction, what's been your most favourite part of the layout build so far?
I think the most triumphant part is going to be the turntable, because it was something that I fancied. I'm a techno geek anyway. It's just the fact it's a DCC turntable. It happened to work, and basically I can use the DCC operation through my Z21, or I can use the little box that comes with it just to select which track it goes to, and it's enjoyable to watch and work with, really.
So do you have actually any part of the layout that you've actually regretted doing already and you'd plan to go back to?
There's been a couple of them. First one was when I said he's got two loops, an inner and an outer. They joined together in two places. One was in front of Godfrey Junction, where you've got the four rails and you've got the inner and outer loop, and they joined together to two rails which crossed the bridge, which was the pull-out bridge. Once it was inside the wardrobe, the built-in wardrobe, where I got the holes in the walls, they parted company again and then went round the layout separately, the two loops. That got a bit bad because I couldn't run, say, 4 trains, one on each rail. So I made 4 rails go across the bridge as 2 separate
so
loops.
You ended up with
4 different loops.
4 separate loops instead of the 4 loops merging into 2 loops over the bridge.
Yeah. So you could just run everything independently. I could leave, as it is now, I can leave them running all day long, and I can sort of play around in the turntable area and do some shunting around and moving around the turntable.
What do you love doing most about though on a layout build?
As in the modelling part of it, or the using of it?
The actual whole of you build it. Obviously, you've got the construction of it, the baseboards. You've got your scenery. You've got your track lane. You've got your electronics as well. I know you mentioned obviously a techno geek. What do you love doing on that build at the moment?
I enjoy doing almost everything. The only thing I don't like doing is ripping bits up, having to go over it again when I've made a mistake.
I think a lot of us get to that.
It's just I've really got to go. I end up just carrying on and leaving a part that I just can't be bothered to get into because it looks like too much like hard work. But then when I do come to it, I think I'm really enjoying this. I should have done this earlier. But then I change my mind about something else then, and I start doing something else, and then it just snowballs.
So looking back to your past, Geoff, what age would you say you first got involved in model railways and what inspired you to do so?
Well, I have been told that at the age of 2 I had a tin clockwork train which I would not leave alone, and I have got a scar on my forehead, and when I get the sun this sort of shines out almost silver. It's like a Harry Potter zigzag on my forehead. But that's when my dad was rushing to go to work late at night at the coal mine up in Yorkshire, and he just went through the door and knocked me flying, and I just cut my head open on the train. So that was at 2 years old, and it was 2.5 when we moved down to Birmingham, and I had a train set there which sort of when I was about 4, 5, 6, something like that, and it stayed with me for a long time. But when we moved to another part of Birmingham, my dad got involved with the Parents Teachers Association, and he'd already bought me an 8x4 sheet of wood with some framing on it underneath it, and he says, we're going to make a good train layout, son. This is the days when you just sort of stand them up and then lay them down to use them, because this is mid to late 60s. And then when he got involved with the school, he decided that this board would be used to paint a thermometer on it for the school to do a collection for the minibus, the school minibus. And my layout never got started. So I was sort of revolted against that, and then I sold all my trains, sold all my cars. I got a tea chest full of dinky and corgi cars, train bits and everything else. And it all went, and I just bought a radio control system for a radio control boat, and that was it. And then I didn't touch it again until recent years.
So, going back then, what would you say was your first ever train set or train that you actually bought?
It was a home that I bought.
Yeah. Or first ever train set you ever actually...
All I ever had was the Hornby one. It's an old Hornby one. And I remember it was just a black steam engine, that's all I remember. And then there was like, it was like a Class 37 or a Deltic type, but it was American, it was green and orange. And it had like 2 holes, one either end on the nose. And you could see a light down inside it, which never ever worked. So that was the extent of my trains, and there's odd few trains.
What would you say is your favourite Loco and rolling stock that you currently own?
It's got to be the Class 24.
What about rolling stock?
Well, I have got 13 plank wagons with Barnsley Main colliery on them, and they're full of a real heavy load of coal. I've weighted them down. So that's my best sort of rolling stock.
What would you say has been your proudest moment and achievement within the hobby, though, to now?
Proudest? Probably just the involvement with MRYCG, for one. Becoming an admin, becoming noticed at different events. Actually having a stall at the Worley NEC exhibition. That happened all of a sudden.
Yeah. And it was quite an explosive thing for you, because you were snowed under.
Snowed under, and it was, I think, because Stuart was helping me. Stuart was with me, and he was busy doing other things, and it was really noticeable when he went off doing little bits of filming and everything. But I had a couple of people helping me. Dave trained time, he helped me for 5 minutes here and there, and then there's David Beatenhoff. He helped me. But it just got to the stage where, because of what I was doing, as soon as you'll start drawing out on the computer somebody's designs for a t-shirt or a mug or something else, that's it. And then you're busy doing that, and you've got your back to the customer, so you got to have somebody there helping you out.
So obviously, those who are listening, obviously this is Geoff of Jumble Lane Model Railway, but obviously you're at Worley doing that stall because you've got the Jumble Lane printing as well. It's a hobby, a printing hobby that's come from doing the modelling.
Yeah, it is. I got certain equipment that I was using to do things to help me produce models, or the layout and things for the layout. And I thought, I can do this. Then I had a chance in a lifetime purchase of a wide format printer, which prints on rolled paper or canvas or different things, 24 inches wide. And I'm thinking, that is a real big, massive machine, that is. But I got it, at such a giveaway price, it was stupid not to buy it. But I could then do things like back scenes and do it for other people. So it sort of just evolved, basically, just like a layout does. It just evolved, and then it became more like run it like a business. But I just tend to give more stuff away than I actually sell.
So you've got your printer, and obviously you've got a website that goes with that. What's the website?
Yeah, well, it's jumblelaneprinting.co.uk.
Going back to layouts and stuff, have you actually yourself? You've done Worley as products. Have you actually ever considered maybe doing an exhibition layout and then have that displayed at something like a Model Railway exhibition like Worley?
I have thought about it, but I've sort of squashed the idea. Two reasons. One, because I got invited to help Chris Bauer. As you know, yourself, you did Manchester, and I was with Manchester, and we did Gaydon previous to that. So I was helping Chris Bauer at Western Wagon Works to do that. I really enjoyed it, and I did think at the time, maybe I ought to get into this, but I've got more than I've got time to do at Jumble Lane, and I'd rather do my layout, and I've got nowhere to put it. I've got nowhere to put my printing machines. My lounge is like a workshop. It's a good job I'm not married anymore, but it's like a workshop, as you well know.
So what are your thoughts on the younger generation coming into the hobby? Obviously, you've been at Worley, you've seen the crowds. What are your thoughts on the hobby exploding for the younger generation?
I think it's all come round in a big circle because you had the 70s and then the 80s, and it had become the electronics boom where computers came. It was sort of late 70s when I got into the first home computers as such, and then it became sort of more popular with games and consoles, which sort of killed the sort of model railway and the other sort of home models and the kits and things like that. You know, the games that you would normally play at home, the electronics and the booms and everything else for consoles killed all that. But I do believe that it's all turning round big circle, and I think a lot of it is to do with this COVID lockdown. I think there's been quite a lot of interest in sort of crafting and modelling and things like that.
So for the final question then, before we hit the quick fire round, Geoff, this one is about social media. Now, you've already mentioned obviously about MRYCG itself, but on a personal note, across the whole of the internet, how useful do you find online social media and forums are towards providing modelling information to the general public?
I think they're invaluable. It's the internet is just a swamp of all information of all sorts. If you've got like social media that's part of the internet, then it's just another place to go to find these things out. The other thing is because if you just look on sort of Wikipedia, or you look on something like Wikipedia based, you're actually looking at a machine, or you like reading a book. When you look at social media, you're actually interacting with some human being somewhere along the line. So you ask a question, you get a good sort of answer, something with empathy, rather than just an answer from a machine that is, you know, where you've got to search for that answer.
Well, thank you very much for all those wonderful answers to them questions, Geoff. We had a good insight into how you've progressed through the model railway hobby. So progressing further on, we've got the final quickfire questions, which are not model railway related questions. Okay, so are we ready, Geoff?
Yep.
Okay, quickfire question 1. What is your favourite beverage?
Tea.
Question 2. What is your favourite snack?
Crab sticks.
Question 3. What is your favourite all-time TV show?
Grand Designs.
Thank you very much, Geoff, for those quick-fire questions. And again, thank you for joining us for this interview. Please tell us where we can find you.
Jumble Lane Printing on Facebook, jumblelaneprinting.co.uk on the webpage, and Jumble Lane Model Railway on YouTube.
Thank you very much, Geoff. So, thanks for listening. Until next time, we're going to say ta-ra to you. So it's goodbye from
Geoff Readman.
And it's goodbye from me. See you again soon. Take
Bye.
care.
Are you stuck for gift ideas? Maybe you're looking for something with a more personal touch. Jumble Lane Printing are a specialist service that supplies a wide range of personalised items tailored to suit your requirements at a competitive price. We will print your chosen design on t-shirts, canvas pictures, mugs, keyrings and clocks. In fact, there's so many ideas to choose from, you will be spoiled for choice. For people with an interest in model railways, we also print banners, totems and bespoke backzines. Please come and visit our Facebook page and see what we can do for you. Just search for our Jumble Lane Printing page on Facebook or call Geoff now on 07931 776 978.
Hello, I'm James Cullen, and welcome to Disaster Diaries with MRYCG. Tollerton, the 5th of June 1950. Another tale of disaster and destruction that many railway modellers will recognise. Now, I must add, despite digging through the archives, I couldn't actually find much information about this particular incident, but due to the unusual nature of the crash, I just had to share it with you. So, bear with me, and here we go. Number 60153 was, for those of you who don't already know, a Peppercorn Class A1. You'll recognise her as the same class as the recently built Tornado. Outshot from Doncaster in August of 1949, she appeared in the rather striking BR Blue Express passenger blue livery, embellished with all the white and black lining. A formidable machine, she was immediately set to work on the fast expresses around Newcastle and York. The first of 5 of her class to be fitted with the then new Timken roller bearings, it was hoped the new bearings would reduce wear and allow for longer periods between visiting the works for regular repairs and maintenance. Despite the new and presumably improved bearings, the A1s were still notoriously rough riders. On the 5th of June 1950, 60153 was in charge of the Up Flying Scotsman. That's the train, not the locomotive. Departing Newcastle at 12:15, she set off for York, as she had done for every day over the past 10 months. Picking up speed quickly, flashing past the beautiful northern scenery, her 7 coaches ticking along behind her. With good weather and no disruptions, she soon approached Tollerton. A long straight section of line designed for high-speed running. On a bright summer's day, it was a great place for the young train spotters in the area to sit on the fence with their pencil, notebook and jam sandwiches and just watch the trains roar past. Now, cruising along, Tollerton swept past the window as the crew of 60153 must have been in a relaxed mood. Following another express, the line ahead was clear for the Flying Scotsman, and it would soon be in York, where I imagine a fresh pot of tea must have been a rather welcome thought for the firemen, who at this point had been working rather hard in the blistering summer heat. The signals were clear, as was the sky. On board, the train guard, who up until now had been enjoying an uneventful day, suddenly experienced a severe jolt. He pulled his communication cord, activating the train brakes, and he brought the 12:15 to a stand. Looking up and down, he couldn't find anything wrong, but spying a plate layer cycling past, he called him over and reported the incident to him, as was standard procedure. Must have been a bit of uneven track. Contented there was nothing more he could do, the train was back on its way. Watching for a moment, as 60153 sped away, the plate layer continued cycling along after her, performing his duties as he went. It wasn't long before he'd see her again. He soon saw the rear of the Flying Scotsman, waiting to proceed again towards York. Maybe the guard had found another bit of track for him and his gang to level out. He was right, but they'd need more than a gang of plate layers to sort this problem out. Laid on her side, half buried in the embankment, 60153 lay like a wounded animal, steam gushing from her cylinders. Her tender was twisted at 45 degrees to a cab. The first 4 coaches, derailed and overturned, spread across what was left of the tracks. The down line was bent, but the up was basically missing. About 60 foot of rail had been violently ripped from its chairs and was folded up under the wheels of the stricken A1. What could have happened? Well, it was something many a railway modeller has actually experienced on a hot summer's day. Heat expansion had bent the track. Yes, would you believe it? The earlier express had run over that very stretch of line only a few minutes earlier, travelling at about 65 miles an hour. The sun had buckled the track, and then with the force of the earlier express hammering across it, the rails had been damaged. Fortunately, it was not derailed, as that would have been a far more serious accident indeed. Not to say this wasn't serious, but of course, because of the stop earlier, 60153 had only got the Flying Scotsman up to about 50 miles an hour when the track opened up below her. Mercifully, no one was killed, but 9 passengers, the driver and the fireman were all injured. The remaining passengers, about 100 people in all, did still get to York, but by a very familiar sight on today's railways. By rail replacement bus. Thank you for listening to this month's edition of Disaster Diaries with MRYCG. Tune in again next month for another episode. Bye for now.
Hello, this is Peter Gower of Vauxhall Junction from the Class 47 Peter YouTube channel, and you're listening to Off the Rails with MRYCG.
Welcome to the monthly live stream listings. During each episode of Off the Rails, we will be sharing a selection of regular live streams that you may be interested in. A number of model railway enthusiasts have taken the steps to connect the model railway community together by hosting regular streams that are free to watch, take part in and socialise. All the following times are listed in UTC and are hosted on YouTube unless stated otherwise. Monday, 7 PM, Jenny Kirk with the Monday Club. Midnight, Tyadan Valley Railroad and Coal Company. Tuesday, 2 AM, Tom's Trains and Things. 8 PM, Barnabas Junction with YouTube Tuesday in association with MRYCG. On Track Tuesday will be hosted at midnight, Indian Head Valley Railroad on the first week of the month, Redbird Tony 2010 on the second week of the month, Creative Rails on the third week of the month, Crooked River and Eastern on the fourth week of the month. Wednesday, 8:30pm, FMR Station House with the Workbench Wednesday show. 11pm, Schuylkill River Valley on the second week of the month. 11pm, D and RGW Iron Horse Route, also on the second week of the month. Midnight, Sparky 107 with the Wednesday night live chat. Thursday, 2am, Michael McCarville. Midnight, Hot Rod Rodney. Friday, 6pm, Anfield Road, Layout in the Loft. 8pm, MRYCG with Facebook Friday, a model railway live chat show hosted in their official group on Facebook. Saturday, 1am, BNSF6951. 3pm, Back on Track. 8pm, The Rosemary Line with the Model Railway Community Show. 8:30pm, The Mass Debaters, a model railway chat channel on the first Saturday of every month. This show may contain sensitive topics and language. It is strictly advised to be for over 18s. 9pm, West Hill Wagon Works. Sunday, 9pm, Oak Hill Model Railway. 9pm, Owen's Model Railway with streaming Sunday. All times may be subject to change at the presenter's decision. For the latest and up-to-date show information, or if you would like your live stream listed, then please visit mrycg.com/livestream schedule.
We've got mail. Yes, get in touch with us on our official email address. Contact us at mrycg.com.
Hornby magazine is offering an exclusive prize bundle in this month's competition, with one lucky winner receiving a set of 8 by 2 foot pre-assembled White Rose Modelworks plywood baseboards, worth £338, a collection of scaled ale buildings with a total of £215, plus a Hornby GWR 42XX and a selection of wagons. To enter the competition and be in the chance of winning this superb prize bundle, all you have to do is answer the following simple question by September the 25th, 2020. What material does White Rose Modelworks use for its baseboards? Is it A, chipboard, B, plywood, C, hardboard? To celebrate Hornby's 100th anniversary and our Hornby Centenary special issue, Hornby Hobbies and Hornby Magazine are offering a special competition prize, one of its centenary year Sir Nigel Gresley train set, worth £250. The Sir Nigel Gresley train set has a special place in Hornby's history. They have 15 runner-up prizes consisting of 5 centenary pens and 10 Hornby 2020 pin badges. To enter this competition and be in the chance of winning this superb celebrity train set or one of the 15 runner-up prizes, all you have to do is answer the following simple question. When was the first Hornby 00 model released? Was it A, 1938, B, 1939 or C, 1940? The closing date for this competition is October the 25th, 2020. Competition 3. Thousands of models have been made by the Hornby brand over the past 100 years, ranging from the simplest of toys to the most detailed scale models we can all imagine. Hornby magazine opens the vote for you to pick Hornby's best model of all time. Choosing Hornby's best model of all time isn't something that we wanted to do alone, so we have launched an online vote for Hornby magazine readers to take part in, where you can choose from the top 100. They will be announcing the winning model in December 2020 as a finale to the Hornby Centenary coverage over the past 12 months. By voting for your favourite Hornby model, you will be entered into the prize draw to win a Hornby 2020 Centenary Limited Edition packet W4040ST in photographic grey plus a Hornby Centenary mug with a value of £120. The voting is open now and closes on October the 20th, 2020. We do hope you enjoyed this episode of Off the Rails with MRYCG. It's now time to say goodbye until next time. If you would like the chance to feature in future episodes or send us some feedback, then please send us an email to contactus@mrycg.com. Finally, I'd like to say many thanks to all of you who have listened in and those who have helped to make this podcast possible. So until next time, stay safe, stay well, and keep on modelling.
Hello, this is Owen from Owen's Model Railways. Thank you for tuning in to this month's MRYCG Off the Rails podcast.